Voy a dar la presentación en inglés, es mi lenguaje nativo. Si tienen preguntas en español.
I will make the presentation in English because it's my native language. You can ask questions in English.
GrainChain es una compañía que se está dedicando. GrainChain is a company that is dedicating itself to figuring out how to properly make an efficient transaction within the grain market. The future of agriculture is in blockchain. What it is doing for us, it is allowing us to be able to conduct transactions within buyers and sellers in an efficient and trustworthy manner. We started building systems for silos and grain management. What we did is, about 5 years ago, we were presented with a problem. How do we automate the process, and how do we make the process efficient and safe and uncorruptible? We started with changing all of the systems and automating the systems, integrating within scales, integrating with moisture readers, integrating with testers and independent firms to make sure that our grain was appropriate, fast, and efficient. We created a system that managed silos, that managed their inventory, that managed everything that was coming in, and that made the process go from a manual hand into an automated system, taking out the mistakes, taking out the ability for corruption, and taking out the ability for errors that came from the field. Silosys it was implemented in 2013 and was efficiently processed over 50 million pounds of 50,000 tons of grain within the first year. Basically, what we did is we took a very, very manual process and we turned it into something extremely fast, extremely efficient. We eliminated hands from touching any kind of information, and we allowed for people to be able to truly trust the data that was coming in. From there came the next step, was how to figure out what the real problems were within our own ecosystem and the ecosystems around us, was figuring out how we go ahead and understand that the information that's coming into our systems is 100% accurate, that the data that we've processed enables proper payment and proper efficiency. So about 2 years ago, we decided to start working with actual contract management, which we found was the biggest problem within the ecosystem. When I say contract management, is calculating what the exact and total amount of value each shipment has. When it comes to calculating how much not only is it worth by weight, by moisture, by quality, and giving that very, very efficient final notice to the end user. Blockchain, for those of you who don't know, we chose blockchain as a very efficient technology because of its distributed process, its decentralization. What that means is that just because I say the information is correct doesn't mean that you have any reason to trust me. But within our network, within all of our participants, if everyone within that network provides true consensus, then we can go ahead and trust the data that is coming in. However, blockchain isn't the solution for everything. It's not going to solve all of the problems. Just because it is written in stone doesn't mean the information that is being written into the stone is correct. What we've done is we've eliminated the ability for people to actually enter the information and relied on systems to be able to do this. Garbage in, garbage out. What that means is if I write information within my blockchain into the system, that doesn't guarantee anything. So what we did is we automated. We've automated the logistics, we've automated the entry, and we've secured the ability to make a deal within a buyer and a seller. What we have done is, in a very quick example manner, is if a farmer has 1 million pounds of corn, and they are able to market this to people outside of their network. Normally, a farmer works only within a very small network. If we can give that farmer the insurance that he's going to get paid, he's going to take the risk of dealing with people that he's never dealt with in the past. Within GrainChain, you have the ability to create smart contracts within buyers and sellers. In this scenario, a buyer can go ahead and market to anyone in the market and not have a reason to trust them, because they know that the systems are going to qualify, grade, and deliver the actual corn. But a seller who can deal with an actual a buyer that he's never dealt with before always has the risk of whether he's going to get paid or not. Within our smart contract system, it allows for people to go ahead and create a contract with multiple conditions, many conditions, whether it's weight, quality, delivery points, payments to banks, payments for storage, payments for pest control, all of those different variables, or pays for brokers. We can embed this into our contract. When a farmer goes and delivers his corn, he crosses the scale. Our system reads the scale. It reads the qualifying chemical readers, the humidification readers, and it goes ahead and automatically triggers the smart contract. When a smart contract is triggered, the farmer is instantly paid for that information, but also all of the other payees. What that does is it allows the farmer to have true confidence in what they're doing. It allows the farmer to be able to truly be able to work with absolutely anyone and not have a fear of being slow paid or not paid. Our system works with variations of different contracts that allows for people to secure 100% of the funds or to secure partial funds to ensure that the delivery for that day. Our ecosystem is a very efficient ecosystem. One of the main parts of blockchain is having enough nodes to be able to qualify each individual transaction. A node for us is a participant within the system that uses our system that either gets paid, qualifies grain, delivers grain, or does anything of the sort. We've got really a couple of different types of participants within our ecosystem. The first type is a large facility that has a lot of different participants that are turning in grain, working grain, paying grain. What that does is it allows for each one of these participants to hold a node, to be able to truly be able to verify each transaction autonomously, so that just because I say that everything has been qualified, and just because the farmer says that everything has been qualified, does not allow it to be qualified until everyone within the community agrees to that point. It's not saying that a farmer is actually going to look at a transaction and qualify it, but within our ecosystem, the transaction is submitted to every one of these nodes. And in order for everything to complete, these nodes have to agree, approve, and move the transaction. Our system is not only accessible by participants who use the hardware in our system, but it's also available via a web portal, via an API, and via a mobile app that allows for different people to verify different processes of the chain. What that basically means is that when a shipment is going to a port who is not using one of our systems, we can integrate directly via an API to be able to read the transmission data, or they can go ahead and accept it and complete a transaction via our web portal. Main example of a smart contract is basically when a buyer goes out and starts putting up a deal. Within our system, they're able to establish a contract with all of their desired variables. That contract is then delivered to the buyer, and the buyer is able to review all of the variables and agree if that's something they want to do. If for some reason that does not apply to the contract, to their contract, they can go ahead and negotiate and go back and forth. This is a digital process, when in the past you had papers going back and forth from office to office. Once they've decided that the contract is something that they want to do, both sides agree, and in essence it is written in stone. The funds are transferred to a trust account for that contract with a participating bank of their choice that they are able to pick in a denomination of their choice, a currency of their choice. What ends up happening in that scenario is some of our Mexican customers do contracts strictly in dollars. It allows them to hold the entire contract within dollars for the length of the futures, spot, or forward or spot contract. When that contract is executed a couple of months later or that same day, then they're able to transfer assets. In this particular picture, the money is going into the bank. From there, we actually get a delivery. The assets have been transferred to the bank, and the title's been transferred to the smart contract. When a delivery is actually made at a silo, then every one of the actual nodes are notified. When the nodes are notified, what that means is that the information saying that farmer A and buyer A have made a transaction, all of the qualifications have been met for that actual delivery, and every one of the different locations agree to that and apply. Now, if some of the locations are down, there's a certain percentage of consensus that needs to be made for the contract to actually execute. When that happens, monies are actually delivered. In this particular diagram, monies are delivered to a payee, which could be a bank, a broker, a seed salesman, a fertilizer salesman, somebody who has interest in the transaction, who is waiting for the transaction to complete to get paid. The farmer gets paid. The logistics system, which automatically calculates all of the logistics, comes in, also pays the actual truck driver, and the elevator gets paid, or the warehouse gets paid for their in and out fees and their storage. We all know that the scenarios are not normal, that we can have multiple points of delivery, multiple points of payment, and multiple points of settlement. Within our system, you can establish that settlement happens on a percentage basis, on a full basis, or when it hits different points of delivery. In this diagram, that same delivery is going to a second point, probably a port, to be able to deliver it outside. At this point, the smart contract knows it has to pay the elevator for coming out, and it has to pay a payee for a fee to get to one point to another, or to pay another level of logistics. Once all of the different nodes achieve consensus, it approves the transaction, and it allows for everything to be cleared. Once these assets go to the individual wallets of each individual payee, they're able to auto-exchange them for the currency of their choice. So when a farmer gets paid, he may want to get paid for his entire shipment in dollars, and the truck driver who's dropping it off, of course, would be paid in local currency, pesos, or etc. Our system is very, very efficient at exchanging and explaining exactly what your entire contract is worth, and it never varies in value, and it has absolute safety. All of the money is being held within trust and is only executable by the actual smart contract. At the end of the transaction, which takes seconds, the actual buyer gains title and certificates for the actual grain, and they're able to move it between ports or drop ship it or do whatever they want with it. But at this point, they actually physically own the grain. And everyone is able to exchange and finalize the overall transaction. What we're really seeing here, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, is the ability to efficiently provide an extremely transparent process. The ability to include the logistics, the delivery, the payment, and the traceability of where everything really came from. Our system is efficiently able to geo-track back down where the grain is coming from if they're using our full suite of products. When we have examples where our system traces from the ground to the seed, all the way to the end user. We have users who are using our system at harvest level, at sale, at resale, and production facility level. We contain all of the information, and we're able to distribute this information among all the parties within our ecosystem. But what's most important is today what we're doing is we're providing a very efficient way to operate. We've got over 523 farmers who are using our system to date in 17 different facilities. The government of Mexico has been working with us to implement this in one of their states to battle a lot of the corruption and the issues that have been having in the area. But what this does is it allows everyone to have a very transparent view of not only where everything is coming from, where the money's moving. It moves physical money out of the picture. It allows for people to get transferred efficiently money in a very fast manner. It cuts the amount of time that takes to process this kind of transaction. And it allows for, whether it's the farmer, whether it's the buyer, facilities, participants, government agencies, to be able to clearly see what the process is when it comes to the overall transaction. And at the end, what it does is today it's providing secure, efficient payment. It's providing smooth logistics, and it's providing efficiency of a farmer to know where his things are at all times and where the payments and the purchases are. Tomorrow, it's creating a marketplace. It's being able to expand the ability for a farmer to sell outside of his 21-mile radius. It's giving him the ability to bypass 4 of the brokers he needs to sell his grain to and level out the playing field in overall prices. We need to be able to expose this data and be able to show where everything is coming from in order to truly do this. And we need to be able to give everyone the same opportunity to sell at the prices that most of the brokers in the business have been selling in the past. They're not going to do that until they're sure that they're going to get paid and that there's processes that are efficient enough for everyone to be able to be secure in the market. I'd like everyone to really take a look at what we're doing at grainchain.io. It is an incredible process that we've had great reception from farmers, participants, governments, and everyone involved. Thank you.
Muchas gracias Luis, muy interesante. La mayoría del auditorio.
Thank you very much, Luis. Very interesting. The audience is really involved with the AgTech in their farms. I also come from a farmer's family, but I've only learned about blockchain this year. We will invite Martin to make his presentation on IBM.
Hola, ¿qué tal? My name is Martin Hagerstom, and I'll speak about another use case through the application of this technology. Even though it's a new technology, it's quite fashionable. This technology has certain features that enable us to address some certain business issues, such as traceability, reduce frauds, dispute levels, addressing disputes. Today I'll discuss a solution we developed with some partners and some customers, which aims at providing much more information about foods. It's called IBM Food Trust. Basically, it provides more transparency regarding food chain. Just to provide some context and have a look at the problem we're trying to solve, in 2016 there was an outburst of cholera in the United States due to spinach. That is, some contaminated spinach were detected, and this led to cholera cases across the nation. That issue escalated quite a bit, and the authorities, first tried to identify the source of contamination, and over those 2 weeks where they actually had to trace, they had to withdraw the product from the supermarket. This was done nationwide. This was done over the course of 2 weeks. So that is quite a long time. It's a lot of food that is lost, but it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, it's worth running this risk. But the interest took about 5 to 6 years to recover. So that is the fact that people had to. It took a lot of trust for consumers to start consuming spinach, and the whole issue is due to the fact that there's one batch, one lot, one supplier. That was the source of the contamination. And over 2 weeks, they tried to identify that source of contamination. The lack of information, that uncertainty, then led to a greater impact. That was 10 years ago. We could say, okay, we've made some progress, but in fact, we haven't. There was a similar case with lettuce this year, and again, it was cholera, and it took us a lot of time to trace, and that led to a lot of uncertainty. There was not a product nationwide recall, but people stopped consuming because they were afraid. I mean, that was also discussed on the news, so it's not a problem we're able to address. And I mean, we haven't been able to address it after this time. Generally speaking, the food industry has different challenges such as health, sustainability, fraud, authenticity. and the loss of foods. And on the other hand, an increasingly demanding consumer that is eager to know more about the product he's consuming. Consumers can even pay more for the food they're consuming. And these problems are usually addressed through data. I mean, we have the necessary tools to provide, all of the information, the data, but also it's done through achieving transparency and to provide trust, in such a big ecosystem, because there are many stakeholders from the time the product leaves the fields and goes to the supermarket. So this technology, and now I will use an analogy to explain this. We can interact among the different stakeholders of a business network. By business network, we usually think of payments because this, but due to the features, due to the characteristics, it could be applied to many other industries, where that can have an ecosystem like this. To explain this through an analogy, probably someone that used to keep a record of the height of their children, that was behind a door, and that would keep a record of all the heights. So first we decide who should have the access to that information. So when I decide who to keep that record of, I'm not interested in everybody knowing about that record. It's just for the family, and this is the same with the network. I choose who's going to have access to the network. And then the other issue is consensus, because these are different rules that we agree on. In this case, the family and myself. That is, if we're going to have our shoes on, we keep we measure the heights. We're going to do this at the beginning of each month. So certain rules that we will agree upon, and we validated that these are going to the rules that we will follow as the participants of the family. And finally, if, say, I keep a record of each of the heights, but I use, for example, a pencil, then can I actually keep that record? Can I change it, replace it, or not? So once it's recorded, it should not be modified, so I can have a complete traceability of everything. So I need to have access to know exactly all of the steps until the final height is measured. This is kind of an analogy just to show the different features that a business blockchain has, and we can apply this to any business network, for example, a supply chain. So regardless of the industry, we are all part of a business network, like maybe a farmer working with the manufacturing industry, or retailer. Regardless of the industry, we all share different sources of information. That is, we see when everybody looks at it, at the issue, everybody has a different kind of perspective. So the whole point is having just a single ledger or a single log. So when everybody agrees, then everything is written or recorded there, so that we follow the same rules and transactions are not modified. And this means that I can continue with my business process based on what the previous stakeholder did. So what I'm going to do, or the way I'm going to do it today, will be based on, I need certain documents or manual processes or procedures to make it a reliable or trustworthy process. So if the customer says, for example, I received and this record cannot be modified, then I can continue with the rest of the business process. Then it's since these steps are followed, then the process can be more efficient. Now, IBM Food Trust, we're developing a global network. We've been doing this for some years now. So we're building an ecosystem that keeps a record of all of the different steps of the supply chain, such as logistic companies, retailers, warehouses, in order to have this traceability of foods, the food life cycle. There are over 2 million products that have been recorded in this network, and this is a powerful network that is every time a new company joins the network for the other retailers, then the products are available. So these networks are very powerful. This started with a pilot test with Walmart in the United States. So the project involved tracing mangoes. We got a tray of mangoes that were produced in Mexico, and we traced the origin. So we developed the 12 steps of that supply chain before the product got to the supermarket. So this was identified through traditional methods. Some steps are digital, some steps are paper, and that is done in approximately a week. This is what took Walmart to trace the product. 7 days is a lot of time. That is 7 days to actually get all of the product from the aisles. So once we were able to have all of the stakeholders, the 12 steps, identifying all of the information, this reliable information, this is just consulted in just a couple of seconds, and we can see the traceability. So recalls can be done more instantaneously. Much faster. So I can get the problem, identify the supplier, and withdraw the product right away. So it's a much efficient response, which just would not impact so much on the consumer's trust. This is not only for recalls and retailers. We are also after, the benefits of these stakeholders. For example, first, maybe a farmer wants to know, of course, that they wants to make sure that they are not the source of the problem, and this has to be. I upload all of the information onto the website or the web, and then everybody has access to the information in a standardized manner. And this is also good for the manufacturers, which can also withdraw their products or recall their products. Also, they can manage all of the different certifications for the retailers to perform faster traceability for regulators. That is, for each of the stakeholders of the networks, each of them will have a benefit, regardless of the size of the organization or the company. Every one of them will have a benefit. This solution has been in the market for 2 years now. It started off as a pilot, and this year it is launched as a massive product. We have some clients that are joining us already, particularly everything that has to do with traceability and recalls. For example, you enter the product name or the lot number or the batch number, and the part of the supply chain. If I am the retailer or the manufacturer, then I'll have. So based on the stakeholder, I can conduct different searches, and be able to trace the product. And then the certifications. These are the first companies that joined or that started using the platforms such as Unilever, Tyson Foods, Walmart. These companies have supported us to actually, well, they told us the needs they had, and we're addressing traceability issues. And the effect of the network is really important because as we add more companies, the data of these companies become available for the rest of the stakeholders. The data is there, so I don't have to have sort of point-to-point relationships. So the network is growing really fast, and we're incorporating new Latin American players. I'm running out of time, so I'll go a little faster. Even though this is a solution, there are some integration issues to look at, some data issues to look at, so as to contribute to the project cycle. So I have 30 more seconds, and the vision is to have a more efficient health system, a safer system. If you want to have more information, these are some places you can visit, such as social media, where you can explore and have access to more information. Since we are in the agribusiness panel, we are already getting some questions, so we'll classify them based on business. You talked about the application of blockchain in the farm. The key word is trust, right? This is what you discussed. So the question is, what do you think of blockchain in the Argentine market, where the largest part of the production is not done through legitimate channels? How do you see the local farmer believing this or using this technology that cannot be perceived, cannot be seen?
As technology, I think that it is ideal when we have several participants, where we have an ecosystem. Here we could be working with contractors. Today there are already businesses in place. You don't need this technology to start doing businesses, but the lack of trust brings in processes which are not very efficient. This technology is intended to give trust to the process itself. How do I see the Argentine market? I don't think that we don't have to go and sell a technology by itself as something magic. We think we have to start selling something which is small and then start growing and try to see which are the results and try to scale up. We intend to solve the trust among the different participants and to push companies and grow. You can achieve that if you start with something small and then try to see the results. I have a question that has to do before the farm gate, inside the farm gate. How can you make business with contractors? In Argentina, we have customer brokers. Basically, participants in the system is the basic thing of what we are doing. If we are working with contractors, we need to give them trust. They need to feel that what they are going to do is correct, with no corruptions and with no problems. if I understand what you mean by contractor, is a person that wants to participate in the system. They can see the results instantaneously. They can see who is participation, who certified what he's doing. They can be trustful enough. They can be confident. Well, I need to trust you to make business with you, and I use only your word or what other people say about you. This technology eliminates this because I can see your background. I can see the outcome of the transactions that you conducted in the past. It eliminates the need to have full trust in what you say. It is based on what you did and what you are going to do and what the smart contract says or states. Another question has to do with transactions inside the farm. How can we use the information that is generated by scouters, remote controllers, and when we talk about blockchain, this is only a part of a architecture solution. It's not the only thing. Depending on each individual case, we are going to read information from sensors. We are going to interact with these things. We have a case in Brazil with a grower in Brazil. We integrated the information of the sensors in order to provide information about our commodity. The more information we can provide, the better. It's not only that we are introducing sensor information, we are also providing traceability. We're giving a trusted record, things about the product, how long has it been stored, at what temperature. So this is the combination of different technologies. Blockchain is fashionable, so we talk about solutions, blockchain solutions, but when we design this solution, we talk about combining several components. One more question for Martin. What is the additional cost for the end consumer? We know that technology helps reduce costs in taking the food to the shelf. But the example that you mentioned about the mangoes, it's associated, this entails a higher cost that will be paid by the consumer. No, these processes already occur. The truth is that that information is being provided. Probably each link in the supply chain gives information to the next link, and the information he or she receives comes from the previous link. What we're doing here is trying to standardize and to upload that information to a repository so this traceability is available for everybody at the same time. So we are avoiding end-to-end relationships between the participants. We are streamlining the process because and it ends up being cheaper because we are giving the information at the same time to everybody. As a consumer, I want to have information about the product I'm consumer, and sometimes consumers are willing to pay an extra dollar or an extra peso because they want to know exactly what the origin of that product is. I'm not talking about food trust. I'm talking about traceability with blockchain for coffee production. We provided a payment system, but we also provide traceability of how the coffee was produced, and customers that want to know all that are willing to pay more for that product. Luis, is there any comment you would like to make from previous questions? Regarding the previous question, how can this be applied to Argentina? I really believe that Argentina is the exact place to prove this technology. in a situation where a grower needs immediate results and needs to know what the technology has to offer to them, this technology precisely gives them immediate results that whenever the farmer delivers his product, he will receive the payment. This system is precisely designed to deal with corruption and with lack of transparent operations or transaction. The same happens with the products that IBM is producing. The idea is to open people's eyes and give them the possibility to obtain immediate results. One more thing that it's important regarding transparency is that as a grower, I can have the possibility to access to other markets because I able to meet specific standards. I have certificates. I can demonstrate this traceability, so I can open up my product to new markets. This was another question. How can this help a producer to switch from being a grower to being an exporter? Blockchain is not the silver bullet for the complete ecosystem, but it really opens up doors. As I said in English, a grower is used, or a farmer is used to make businesses in an area of 21 miles of his farm. But this gives him the possibility to get away of that level. Generally, you see people who's selling his product to only two people. The technologies that we are introducing and we are proving in U.S. and in Mexico is giving the farmers to execute a contract directly with China, directly with Africa, and buyers, on the other hand, can be sure of what is the origin of the products, can make sure that certificates are correct. There is a lot of logistics in that process, so you cannot say that a small farm in Argentina can complete, will have a complete logistics procedures, but in fact you could reduce many of the steps.
It provides transparency. The other thing is, as I talked about the traceability solutions, food traceability solutions, we have worked with Merck, another world solution, which it's a foreign trade network, and the purpose is to have terminals, exporters, importers, logistic operators, land transportation companies, and this aims at having or achieving traceability. That is, having information of all of the stakeholders in just a single place. And on the other hand, the most ambitious aspect of it, that's why it's called global trade digitalization, is to digitalize the process so that it's paperless. And if we think of the number of cargoes and containers that ships carry, it's really amazing. That is, they have a lot of papers. They have to manage a lot of papers. So to digitalize all of the papers. So through these networks, we want to digitalize documents and not only be able to trace all of the events, 121 events of a container, of a cargo shipment, but also all of the approvals, for example, by SENASA, to have all of those transactions or all of those approvals also digitalized. And there are I think 14, 15 ports, some customs that have also joining the platform. It's also a project that is growing, and it's a technology that can help us a lot. Another question for Martin about farm-in businesses. And what is the link? This is the question. What is the link of blockchain to what you just presented in the Cordoba grains stock? This is the Watson system. Well, Watson, it's an analytics, artificial intelligence system. As a cognitive information or cognitive data system, which enables to increase the capacity of human beings. That is, this means processing a lot more data. And this afternoon, there's going to be a talk on this topic. This solution, as I said before, these are not only blockchain or artificial intelligence, but these are combined. There is a case, it's not about the farming sector, but we can see through this case how this has grown to, in this case, to trace diamonds in order to solve the traceability issue when you buy a diamond, how it was extracted, basically. So it's quite a similar system from the technological standpoint, that is following each of the steps to have a transparent trace. What we realized later, that even though we don't have the certification of the diamond, we can use Watson artificial intelligence. We could use an image of the diamond and get a DNA of the diamond. So even though we don't have the diamond certificate, whether it's original or not, it's genuine or not, then I can recognize the diamond. We have to start at a smaller scale and then move up onto a larger scale. We have 5 more minutes. So I'll ask Luis and Martin to discuss the future. How do you see the future of blockchain, say, in the next 5 years? That is, in the 2023 APRISID Congress, what do you think you're going to be telling us about particularly intellectual property bottlenecks that you think will be solved in 23? So just what's your vision? What do you think you'll be talking about? I think that in 5 years, I think it's too much, but farmers will be benefiting from the information we're sharing right now. The farmers I work with in the U.S. are quite open to share information to prevent problems with, different kind of problems such as production, seeds, land. In our business, we have, there are farmers, people that can provide information as to the transactions and sharing this information not only to to avoid working with somebody, but also to really understand how the process works. You receive information from, say, John Deere, information on the land, so we can gather this data and deliver it in ways that can be used. In 5 years, I see that the stakeholders that did not want to participate at the beginning begin to see the benefits and join the platform. Probably not all of the technology, but they will see the benefits of production and will be able to reduce a lot of the current problems. Our CEO has said that blockchain did for information, what internet did for information. And I think it's going to be even faster because internet is already there as a runway for this to develop much faster. Technology is new. it's been applied for 10 years, but it's been applied to the business for 4 or 5 years. So, and we are just beginning to implement it in real use cases. And there are many use cases that did not succeed because they were not ideal for these technologies. I think that we should start with something small, because this should not be implemented just because. But in networks such as the one I mentioned before, this will grow very fast. And growth is organic, but very, very fast. And then I think that in 5 years, we'll see some of these networks fully developed and others probably not. But that will depend on the problems, and we can actually turn them into use cases. The important issue here is to develop how certain industries will operate in the future. And these networks are designing today. I mean, you can actually join these networks in 5 years, or you can start building it or help build them now and join them later. Great. Thank you for your presentations, Luis, Martins. I'd like to thank the audience, too, for participating. And so we hope to see you in the next Congress. And, well, we hope everybody continues enjoying the lectures today. Thank you.